I'm getting it set up. Who goes there? Is it you? Hello?
Yes.
Perfect timing. I'm just starting the show.
Okay, so
Wait, I'm literally on. So whatever you're saying, you're on live. And I'm checking myself all over the place here. If you're on with me, go to Audrey Newmont and I will be able to see your everything here. I got Mr. Newmont in the house. Welcome to Conscious Mind Tripping. I am your host tonight, Audrey Newmont, and I will be joined shortly by the one and only Nicholas Newmont. Did you want to join me now?
yes.
Okay, come sit down. So, hello, everybody. Say hello to my husband here. I'm hoping that chair is low enough for you.
There we go. We're good.
It is.
Hello.
So I was going to start out by talking about your podcast last night. So last night was Nick's 5th anniversary of your podcast. I left my notes somewhere else. Where did I put them? Doesn't matter. I remember what I'm supposed to be saying. So he had on his podcast all these different people who have been a part of the show for all these years. I was on for the whole thing as a little co-host. And then Becca and Ed were manning it all very well. Ed's the techie.
The director.
The director.
The director, yeah.
It's everything there. Ed friggin' Hunt. And then Becca managing all the people coming and going and just being amazing at what she does. And then we started with, who did you start with?
Well, first of all, it was like for a metaphysical podcast, it became the Ed Sullivan Show because it was really the who's who. All right. And I was just talking to a couple of my guests from last night, and I was really just, when I look back on it, so grateful that some of these people like took the time to come onto the show. And if you haven't watched the show, then I'm kind of giving away some secrets here. So it started out with introducing Sheena Metal, and Sheena is the person who does a lot of different podcasts. At LA Talk Radio, and she had me on her show, and she said I was such a natural that I should do my own. And a couple of weeks after that, October 29th of 2019, there I was doing my own show at LA Talk Radio. And then after that, our daughter Milena came on, and we played one of her music tracks because she does the opening theme music for your show too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I haven't had it on here because I'm doing everything.
Right. So Milena came on and was on for about 10 minutes and talked about how she got into music and how her life changed and her inspirations. And then after that, we introduced our guest co-host, which is the very talented and well-known Carolyn Hennessy. Carolyn is 18 years on General Hospital and has done a lot of different acting gigs. I mean, she's
just an amazing actress. She's really, really talented.
And as I said before she came on stage, I said she is, as an actress and as a person, she has a one-woman show, and she laughed very hard at that. And so we had her on for quite a bit, and then we brought on our good friend Catherine Melton, who studied with me for a long time, has worked with me on a lot of different, classes and TA'd and house blessings. And I've known Catherine longer than I've known Audrey.
Right.
I mean, I'd go back to like 1995, 96 since I've known Catherine.
Yeah, she's one of our buddies.
Yep, definitely. And
Alexandra.
Then Catherine Glass from Concord, Massachusetts came on, and without being prompted, she started channeling Carolyn's father and talking about, the well-known from Disney, Dale Hennessy, who was one of the original illustrators for Disney. I mean, that's our friend Mike, his dad too. So the first half of the show was those folks,
That was
right?
that was amazing in itself. Yeah.
And then we moved from there. Carolyn exited along with Catherine and introduced well-known comic Craig Shoemaker, who I've been watching since 1995. And the reason that Craig was significant is that Craig was my very first guest on Mainstream Metaphysics on October 29th, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So to have Carolyn be able to be available and to have Craig to be available,
Yep.
who's leaving on tour soon.
Look these people up online. Look up on YouTube, Craig Shoemaker, the Love Master. You will laugh yourself silly. He makes me laugh harder than anybody, honestly.
And we've seen him perform more than any other comic.
No, by far.
And as Craig himself said, as we've evolved, now we're all friends.
Yeah.
You know, Craig sees us as a friend, not just and Craig does a wonderful thing called Laughitation, which is healing through laughter. And he was very funny last night, as he normally is.
Because he is. He's just amusing. By the way, hi, everybody that's coming on here. I see you guys, Carmen and Carla and Brandy, and I think Dennis is on too. So glad to have you guys on. I have a whole bunch of interesting things for you all tonight. This is going to be a real interesting show.
And then, of course, on Zoom, our friend Alexandra, who channels Golden Arrow, came on, and then Brandon Fravel, who has run Free Running Club and has done a lot of great metaphysical work, and he talked about inspiration and exercise and training.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of good insights about the physicality and the spirit combined, and he's been on the show a number of times. And then the last guest in the second half of the show was our good friend and fellow hypnotherapist, Michelle Gezzi. And that, and then of course.
So don't give away too much about that, because I'm going to bring you back on at the end of the show for that story.
And then, of course, what was really funny, and it was a true psychic moment. I remember my early dealings with Michelle at HMI. I attended there in 1996. And she came out intending to tell the story that I was already telling. And you'll see if you watch the show, the big high five between the two of us, because it really was a psychic moment. And what Michelle and I were talking about and intended to talk about. So, and Michelle has had a recent, very profound moment because of a session I had with her.
Yeah.
So we're going to save that for the end, right?
Yeah. So you go do your thing.
Okay.
He's making dinner. And then I'm going to have some things that we're going to discuss. And then I'm going to bring him in at the end to tell a really incredible story that happened. And I think you guys will appreciate it a lot.
Yeah. This is a real thing that happened, which is one of those things that everybody would wish would happen to them. And it's mind blowing. And it is just, it's an experience that you could only imagine. So anyway.
By the way, I'm just so amused. Your hair is like kind of blending in with those clouds.
Yes, I know. Well, I've had my head in the clouds a number of times, so especially since I've met you. So anyway, and see, the sun rises and sets right there.
And by the way, Carmen says he's funny. Should I have him on the phone so he can be amusing?
Whatever. It's your show. It's your show. Anyway, enjoy, everyone.
Carmen, I'll have you on at some point so that you can amuse us, because I always love being amused, for sure.
And by the way, last night's show, which was supposed to be 90 minutes, ended up almost 2 hours.
I didn't realize it was 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. It was almost 2 hours.
Wow.
And it could have gone 3 or 4 hours. It was just so good. So if you didn't see last night's Mainstream Metaphysics, take the time to watch it, because it was the variety show of metaphysical variety shows.
It really was. And by the way, speaking of metaphysical, we had our psychic panel this past Saturday. And for those that were unable to attend, I can't even express, I'm so impressed with all of you four. It was Nick and Gina Ann, Mary Elizabeth, and Inanna. And I think we're in a moment right now where it's a valuable thing to be able to take that kind of divine guidance. And these people, they channel and they are psychic. It was just a phenomenal day. And good job to all of you.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
And then Nick has coming up on Saturday an I Ching class that he's teaching.
Yes, it's the Chinese art of fortune telling. It is so much fun, and it's very mind blowing in how this, plays out. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the show. I'll be back in the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, do you see a piece of paper on my appointment book over there somewhere? Ah, I will have my notes because we love it when I have notes. Isn't that pretty, that picture? I have been having a very good time with AI. So I'm going to Grok, which is on X, and I just tell them, do a photo, like the photo that I put today for today's podcast is the one with the road, and then there's a older man with this young baby. I just tell Grok, generate a picture, and then I'll tweak it here and there to make it, something that I want. So this picture that you're looking at is one of the ones that I had made for Grok, and I can just throw it in the background. I have a good time with this since I don't do as much art anymore in whatever way, shape, or form I usually do it. This is my newest form of artwork. So I want to get into the topic of the day. And I'm going to preface it by saying we all have our things. We all have those emotional, mental, physical challenges that we go through, and it's the contrast of life. So when we're looking at what we're doing in the contrast of life, there's always these things that will come up and it'll create the challenges, so it's like I find that a lot of times when people come up against the challenges, there's a part of it where we think, oh my God, I should be better than this. I should not have this challenge. I should whatever. And when we're judging the challenge, you're never going to get over the challenge. It's always like the judgment keeps it there. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it. So there are things that my clients present that are very common for a lot of people. Like I can have, I don't know, like 10 people show up and they'll all have their own version of what the thing is. And sometimes people come in with what I've got going on. And it's a very interesting thing to look at these things and to be with it. I'm moving myself over here a little bit because I feel kind of off kilter. So, and by the way, tonight is interactive. I have my phone here and I can see your comments. And Carl, it's fabulous having you here. Yes, I love having you guys join me. It's like I have you to talk to. It's like I know who my little audience is or my big audience, whatever. So I think I had told you all a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to preface what I'm saying by when we're doing the work that we do, it's all a process. It's all figuring out who we are and how we deal in any given moment in time. So I had this thing that happened almost 2 months ago now, where I had a session with Gina Ann. And in that session, she had said to me some things about how I am. And it was just fabulous because she's psychic. So she's seeing these things and she's like, Audrey, you put everybody else above you. You put other people on a pedestal. And I talked about this a couple shows ago, and I was explaining how that was like such an important insight because my mother, when I was a kid, had literally said, Aud, you put everybody on a pedestal. And it was just like, isn't that just what we do? So since that time, I have been owning a new version of me. So not accepting as much as I had accepted, not being that version that would just make a lot of things okay. And so in the process of that, I want to talk about some things, and I'm going to get to the part that's important at the end, and Nick's going to come in on that. So somebody had said to me a while ago, and I guess maybe more than one person has said this in my lifetime, and it struck me finally. And I'm curious. I want you guys to interact with me tonight because it's important, I think, for us all to see these parts of ourselves. And when you can actually see them and you take it from that I'm unaware that I'm unaware and you bring it to an awareness, that's where you get to grow. That's where we get to be that bigger version of ourselves, that, the happier version, the more calm version, that part where we're the flippin' sun version of ourselves. So as we're recognizing these things that we carry as our beliefs along the way and we continue to transform them, we keep leveling up in the game of our life. So this person had said to me not too long ago, "Hi, Gloria. Nice to have you in here." This person said, "Audrey, you can't please everybody all the time." And they said it in such a way where it was kind of snappy, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I found myself going, "All right." And I literally walked away because it triggered something in me. It made me kind of angry. And so I had to be with it. Then, because the universe loves me, people started presenting different things in session. And it was like it started turning into a bit of a common theme. And see you in a little bit, Mr. Mormino. So when I'm working with people and they're presenting things, I want you to really get this could be a few people. And I want to know if you can recognize it as sometimes it's our story. So you can't make everyone happy all the time. But the thing that literally came up today, and I noticed in the weeks since I had that epiphany that I and I wrote this down, I started noticing that there's a part of me where I want to do good things for people. I want to help people. Obviously, in my life, that has been a big part of what I've done. I literally created a job at 17, 18, 19 where I'm a hairstylist. So I am helping people to, look better, to feel better about themselves. And then it turned into where I'm doing hair and I'm literally talking with them and they would tell me stuff. So I would ask them questions: why, when, where, what, how. And by the time that they would leave, my clients would be like, wow, I look good and I really feel good too, because I'm a listener. So I'm doing that part where I'm giving and I'm listening and I'm just being present with people. And so it's not a bad thing until it is a bad thing, and not like a bad thing, but it's a part of like a program that we roll. So if you want to look at it in another way, when I'm working with people, it's like we all have whatever traumas in our life. And so as this little girl that I was, there got to be this point where it's like, if I just keep being a good girl, if I keep being nice and I keep doing whatever, I'll keep myself out of trouble. And I'll I'll take that I'm a good person car. I'll take the I'm doing good things for other people car. And I'm being nice and I'm, being agreeable. And I'm just, taking that lane. And so when we're taking that lane and we do what I had been doing and other people do what they do, and I keep making it okay, making it all right, it gets to the point where I'm not okay. And there is suppressed anger about what I'm not saying, suppressed anger about what I'm not doing when somebody does something that's out of alignment. So this, believe it or not, comes up. Gloria, you can relate. Yes, the people pleaser. So when we're the people pleaser, there's a couple of challenges that happen with it. One of the challenges, and this is a very, very big deal, when we keep people pleasing, like I have a situation that I'm working with clients, and everybody's anonymous. It could be quite a few of them. It's like in this particular situation that I'm looking at, there was this situation where this one person in the relationship just kept pleasing, just kept, how can I assist you? How can I make this better for you? How can I do whatever? And the other person wasn't in the reciprocity of it. They weren't matching that on a level. And so the one person never said anything. They just kept doing the next thing that would be the people pleasing thing. And it got to the point where there was a level of frustration that was built up. Now, mind you, these two people really care about each other greatly, but between the two of them, there was this lack of communication. The people pleasing person was like, if I just maybe take it to the next level, if I knew, do the next thing, whatever that looked like. And then the other person had no idea. Nobody's sharing with them. And so they just keep doing whatever they're doing. And this is a very common thing in life. And why it's important is, if we're not addressing for the other person what they're doing, if we're not being a mirror for them and they keep just doing the thing, there's not going to be a change in the situation. The amount of times that people come in and they're like, you don't understand, Audrey, I really don't like confrontation. And it's like, I get it that you don't like confrontation, but let's change the word confrontation. Let's change it to what I have in my book, constructive communication, or whatever you want to call it. But let's change it so that when you're looking at what you're doing, when the other person isn't in alignment with what you're asking, however that looks, you're able to be that mirror for them and say, hey, this is what's going on. It's not working for me, therefore it's not working for us. And most importantly, you're making it okay. It's like, I get it. It's not intentional. I get it that this isn't, on purpose, but I want to show you what it is because I want it to change. I want it to be different. So for those of us that are people pleasers and non-confrontational, I can remember clearly the first time that I had to address something with someone, and it was like, ooh, I literally had a panic attack, and it wasn't a big deal thing. So then it comes back to that part where I'm saying, if I do good things, if I just keep doing good things. So sometimes we do address it, and people will maybe change it and maybe they don't. But there is a part of it where the people pleasing people, and other people as well, there's a part of it where we have expectations about what somebody else should be doing. And so when we have those expectations, it's like, I mean, think about it in your own life. It's like, I can't even believe that they're doing that. I can't believe that they would think like that. I can't believe that they would do whatever it is that they're doing. I've been so nice. I've been so good. I've been so fabulous to this person on whatever level that looks like. I can't even fathom in my mind that they're doing whatever it is that they're doing. So there's a part of it for the people pleaser where you're like shocked because that's not what you're expecting. It's like when we're kids, we learn that program. If I just be a good girl, if I just be a good boy, then, certainly mom's going to love me and I'm not going to get in trouble. Or maybe I can get myself out of trouble by being so good that they'll just love me because, I'm being so nice. So why all of this is important is because when we're that person that's doing it, most of the time, we're not truly being authentic. We're not getting what we want, and we're not doing anybody any favors. This people pleasing sometimes is a big thing for parents. It's a big thing for parents. A lot of times, parents don't want to reprimand their kids They don't want to be the bad guy. They don't want to be whatever. And I've worked with many parents where it's like one of the parents is the bad guy and the other one's not. Because the one that's not doesn't want to be that one to, you know, create distress for the kid or have the kid screaming at them, carrying on with them, or doing whatever. So it unfortunately turns into where kids don't get those boundaries. They don't get that part where they understand, you know, your actions have consequences. And the amount of times that I see that, it's a lot. So when you get people are going to love you or they're not, whether you're pleasing or whether you're not. And when you keep being authentic for yourself, that's when you're owning your power. And that's when you can help somebody else to see their behavior clearly. I got to look at the time here and see what time I'm bringing Mr. Newmont back in, because I'm going to tell this story in a little bit that has to do with him. Hold on, I need a little drink of my water. I'm so glad, Gloria, that you can relate. You know, Gloria and I have known each other for 30, 32 years or something like this. And I know you pretty well. And I know that kindness that you are. And I know that givingness that you are. And, you know, it should be in life where it's a reciprocity. You know, it's like, I'm going to give, and I'm going to get. And a lot of times it doesn't look like that. So when you are a lot more discerning on where you're giving and how you're getting, that's when things can really change. But we've got to see that program. We got to see what it is that we're doing. And it shows up in various different ways. So I'm going to kind of back things up a little bit. The reason why I do this is because Spirit directs me on a level. I wrote that book because Spirit was like, you got to write this book. And then it was like, you got to create a podcast because you got to share with people what you've put in the book. And there's these tools that I've put together. So when my clients come in, I have a workbook and I'll explain to them what the controller of them is. And then I'll explain to them, here's the 3 buttons on the controller of you that make everything happen. Your intention, attention, perception. And the amount of times this comes up in session where I'm like, 3rd button, perception, got to look at that. You know, it's like, that's the controller. And then when you're looking at figuring yourself out, I put together this tool that's called Fear into Power. And it's also the challenges, the solutions, the cons, the pros, and always intention is in the middle, the intention line. So you're just figuring out, who am I? Why do I do what I do? Why do I allow what I allow? Why is this happening? So you're doing that critical thinking part of you, and you're moving into I am. What are you changing it into? What are you transforming with yourself? It's another form of DBT, but it's more based on emotions, and it's based on the second tool, which is a big one that I want to talk about tonight, our timeline tool. There are people who believe, I don't want to look at the past. I just want to be here, and I want to keep moving forward. I just want to get it. I got it. And I want to move forward. But then they keep doing the same thing. And then they'll be like, shit, here I am again. I got to keep moving forward. I just want to take the I'm moving forward car and make life happen on my road here. Do the forward car and make life happen. The reason why the timeline tool is the second tool is because if you can't learn from your past, if you're not looking at where things had been, then you're not going to change the program. So when you're doing the tools that I put together, it's all about recognizing, what is this thing? Why am I rolling this? Why am I, like, for instance, Why was I putting everybody on a pedestal and putting other people? Why was I a people pleaser? So I looked at my timeline, like I told you guys before, and I started recognizing, went from the moment back, and it's like, oh, I could see all these different ways that in my lifetime I had been very much a people pleaser and allowing, and just, I mean, it was just what it was. Then I was able to look in my 0 to 8, and I was able to see why I took that belief on. And literally, my mother telling little Audie in the back seat, "Odd, you put everybody on a pedestal." Okay. Children don't discern the difference between that's good, bad, right, wrong. All right, that's just what we do. And so when you're able to look at all of it, you're not going back and reliving it. I think people think when you're looking at the past, you're reliving it. No, I don't want people to relive stuff. I didn't want to relive stuff. In fact, it was so much. People would say, look at your inner child. It's like, no, I don't want to relive any of it. So for clarity, it's not that when you're doing your timeline, you're reliving these things. You're looking at it from the adult perception. I'm the adult in the front seat. I'm driving, and I get you. I got you. I see what happened, and let's learn from it. Let's gain that wisdom, and let's drive with great intention. Let's not be a people pleaser anymore, for God's sakes. Let's put everybody on the pedestal with us. Let's have everybody be elevated and support people from that place, not support them from here. Let me lift you up there. Let me do this for you. Let me do that for you. It's never going to benefit me, and it's never going to benefit them. So it was a really, really valuable lesson for me to look at my timeline and understand what had happened. So it's super important if you want to be in the choice point now. Absolutely. This right now is where God flows through. Being present is the greatest thing you can do. Being present and knowing the truth of you, that's the best that you can do. But when we have those challenges, it's always that one in the back seat. It's that kid back there, and they get feisty. And the more that you can hear them and recognize what it is that they're rolling in their consciousness, and be compassionate with yourself and them, then you're going to learn from it. And then, like I did, you're going to change that program. And then you get to the next program and the next program. And every time that you change these programs, you keep leveling up. So in that book of mine, there's literally, it's a game format, the Mind Trip game. And there is a game board in there. Literally do these things along the way. And every time you go around the board, I got a new level in my consciousness. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing this. So every time you go around, you're leveling up that conscious part of your mind. And then the unconscious part of your mind, it's now a new program that you're running. What time is it? And who's writing in here? Isla was a baby, which means now she's 33, and I've got 2 babies that I got in high chairs with her. Hi, Karen. Good to see you. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the story. Now I'm going to get to the thing. So I had that epiphany a while ago, and then I had my birthday. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of everything, but I'm just going to say I had a moment in my timeline, and it kind of started around my birthday, and it had to do with my fabulous husband. Now, just to be clear, I love him very much, and I know he loves me very much. And we've been together in this timeline for 25 years now. And so there was this thing that happened around my birthday, and I wasn't happy. It was like something happened, and I was like, this is not working for me. And so I owned my word with him. And I said, this is what happened. This is how I'm feeling. This is how it affects our relationship. And for the love of God, for the future, can we do this? And as much as he wants to, there was a part of it, and this turned into kind of two things. There was a part of it where this isn't the first time that this thing had happened. And I'm curious if you guys have this in your relationships with each other. I'm pretty sure most people do because I work with couples and families. And it is one of those things where people will be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I get it. And I'll change my behavior. So in this particular situation, it was like one conversation turned into another. And I usually in our relationship would have been the people pleaser. He's apologized. It's going to change. But then I'm looking at the timeline, and it's like in our relationship, I had to look at what I had been doing, and I kept making it okay. And I kept making it okay. And I kept making it okay. And there reaches a point where, and I'm just going to be very honest, I've worked with many couples that where the person, whether it's the husband or the wife and the wife or the husband and the husband, when there are two couples together, there reaches a point, and this is where divorce happens for many people. They don't change. And literally the person will come in and say, I don't think they're going to change. And I can't do this anymore. I'm literally done. And they cut their heart off. I don't want to be hurt like this anymore. I don't want to be in this pattern with somebody anymore. I don't want to keep thinking that this is going to change, and I don't want to live the next 30 years like this. So people opt out. Well, I know he loves me, and I know I loved him or love him. So I didn't want to opt out, but I didn't want to keep doing what I had been doing in the timeline. And I got that little insight that I'm right there on the pedestal with everybody else. So there was a part of it, and it was awkward and it was challenging. And I had to stand in my truth. And I had to be like, no, I'm not going to just make this easy anymore. I'm just not going to keep making this okay anymore. So hold on a minute. I'm going to bring him back up here. Hey, Nick! We've never done this before. Like, never done this before. Because I don't usually talk about our relationship. It's like strange. And because we're two therapists, I think people think sometimes we got it all down and we just do, we're just never have any problems. But we do. And it's how we work through the problems, right? So I wanted to share this with you guys because it's important to know how to work through them. So this is how we work through this. I have to call him again. So all right, hold on, cover your ears. Nick! Do you think he heard me? Don't make me get up from this chair and have to go open that door. He should be listening on his phone. Here he comes. Have you been watching this?
No,
Okay, come have a seat.
because I've been on the phone.
Everybody say, hi, Nick. So I've been telling a little bit of that story that we just recently had. And now I'm going to get to the part, and I wanted you to hear this part of it. Here. Hello.
Okay, hi.
So I was saying that we had had this moment and you had apologized, and I was like, not making it easy. I was not going to just be like I had before and just make it okay and just accept the apology. What I haven't said yet is I knew he didn't do the work around it. I knew that he didn't see the program that he was running. And it's not my job to be his therapist and to show him any programs. So I just kept making it challenging. I was not going to just be okay and go back to happy, people pleasing Audrey. So there was this beautiful moment where you came to me and you said that you were going to have a session.
Yes.
So share what you would like to share about what that looked like.
So if you watched last night's show,
They just pretend they haven't. Just be
Okay.
with this.
so we have a friend and fellow hypnotherapist, Michelle, who I've known since 1996, and she's very good at what she does. So I sat and talked with her for a while, and I let her know what was going on, behaviors on both ends, feedback, and she was very efficient about the note taking and actually gave suggestions. Try this, do this, things like that. But then when we went into hypnosis,
Talk about where she was asking you about your childhood a little bit.
well, I don't remember all that. Okay. She was asking certain things about, we talk about 0 to 8.
That's
Okay.
it.
And there's certain things I remembered, certain things I didn't. And I did not have a traumatic childhood. I just didn't. I grew up, with very strict parents, that's for sure. So when we went into hypnosis, there's something that came out of it. In other words, this part I do remember. She said that, look at myself now and look at myself, when I was a kid, and was there a name that I was called or a criticism of me? And there wasn't anything. Okay. There wasn't anything to be able to relate to, but I recognized certain things about my father's behavior toward me, and that came out. All right. And so when I left there, I called my sister on the phone. What?
His behavior towards you that created a certain element of pain.
Yeah. But when I asked my sister about certain things that went on, and she's 5 years younger than me, we were remembering certain things that he did in his behavior and his approach to us and so on and so forth. And then I remembered a lot more, when we got into that discussion. And so then that night, and keep in mind that this is all during a period last week where I had a cold, I had a sinus infection. So I was sleeping in the room that's over here, not with Audrey, because it's not fun when your partner is like sneezing and coughing and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't get her sick. So I woke up around 3:45 in the morning, realizing this quote unquote dream I had, which wasn't a dream. It was an appearance. And I was in the office that I have now, and except the walls weren't blue with that wallpaper. The walls were sort of an off-white. The door, instead of being dark wood, was off-white. And I looked out into the parking lot, and it was the configuration of the building and what we have now. And I see these people pull up, and I was thinking, what are they doing here? They're too early. They're really early. So I see them walk around like they would go in the rear entrance of the building. And as I'm standing in there, the door handle is jiggling. I'm like, what are they doing? They're supposed to go to the waiting room, not come in here. And the funny thing today, my client, who's never been here before, who really needed a session, I discover while I've got someone in hypnosis, I thought you walked in there. She's sitting in that outer room. And I had to tell her, it's like, across the hall, Anyway, so the door handle is jiggling, and I go and I open the door, and there is my father. And and by the way, my father passed away in like 2014 or something like that. It's been a while.
So it was a really vivid dream.
It was more vivid than you can imagine. And he was very vivid, bright. And he looked the way he probably would have looked when he was around 50. still the gray hair and the glasses that he wore. And he was wearing a shirt and pants that he actually really owned. This off sort of like a shirt jack kind of yellow and white kind of thing. And in fact, when I told my sister, she goes, "I know exactly that shirt." She knew. That's how vivid that was. And I said, "Dad," like that. He had this big smile on his face, and he came in, and he really didn't say anything. That's the funny thing. I could tell there's thoughts and feelings coming from him, and I was asking him, what's it like over there? It was a very strong interaction that we had. It wasn't misty the way some dreams aren't clear. This was so clear. And all of a sudden in that office, there was a queen size bed with a white bedspread on it, not unlike the one that's in there. Okay. And so I went and sort of sat down, one leg on, one leg off. And he did this very playful dive onto the bed. And then he sort of melted a little bit where he's basically kneeling on the floor and still has this big smile. And he came toward me and he just went in. And keep in mind, this is not a dream at this point. This is a real interaction. And he just kind of took away all the pain. It was unbelievable. And then unfortunately something distracted me, and I realized I was in this scenario, and I came out and I woke up, and he was still there. He didn't disappear, but I came out of it. And I was like, oh, why did it have to end like that? I wanted to stay in there. And because my sister is 3 hours ahead of me, once I was realizing she would have been up, I called her, and it was very emotional for her, for me to tell her that story and what he did. And then I came, once you were awake, I came and told you, and it was very, very emotional to tell that story. And there's other things that came through about it too, the synchronicity of 25 years and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, it was truly an experience that I hope any of you could have, to truly interact with an actual spirit to that degree. It's really unforgettable. And I just have this sense of calm about me. Like all that stuff, it just is gone,
Right.
you know?
So the reason why this is all so important is, had I just kept allowing, had I just kept saying, okay, here we go again, don't do it again, whatever the thing is, it doesn't even matter what the thing is. None of us in our relationships are ever intentionally looking to piss the other person off or offend
Oh
them or
God, no.
whatever. It's just an unconscious act. So when you don't be that mirror in a way that somebody can really have to look at, what the hell am I doing here? So that was the thing that caused him to literally, I got to fix this because I know you don't want me to be upset with you. And he knew how upset I was, because for me, this was like, it was triggering little Audie in the back seat in a massive way. And I just was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so when he then was like, all right, I need to do this, he'd never gone to a therapist in all these 25 years that we've been together. So that step was important. And I was like, all right, so that's okay. And then when he had the dream and he came in the next morning, I've seen him emotional, 4 or 5 times in 25 years. And so it was like, oh, this is insight. This is understanding. This is wisdom. This is a change in the person. And that opens up for me to feel safe. It opens up for me to get, we can continue now because that's not going to happen again. The program is over. The program has changed. And it's important to get that. Like these people that I was talking about before, where the partner is like, I don't think the change is going to happen. And then they hold the attention there and they don't be that mirror. They don't be that person that holds the other person accountable to what the thing is. They just give up on a level. So I'm not going to give up on us. I'm going to just, I have to recognize what I've been doing for all these 25 years and not do the same thing. And it got so uncomfortable that he got to not do the same thing as well. And isn't that just the power in a relationship?
Absolutely. And that's what makes our relationship so good, is we have the ability to do that for each other. I was asking one of my clients recently, who's in a relationship not nearly as long as ours, but I asked him, does your other half, challenge you? And he's like, no. And I said, well, you don't challenge you. I said, so this relationship has an issue, because if you two don't challenge each other, or if you challenge her and she doesn't like it, you don't have a lot of future here. Okay. I think you know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who he's talking about. It's one of our clients.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And
this is one of those cases where the one client has grown a lot and the other one is not only not growing, is in denial that that client, pseudo client, isn't going to do the work.
They're not doing the work.
Not showing up. Not only not doing the work, not showing up.
Yeah. So there's a part of this, and Nick, I think you can maybe address this a little bit. There was a part of it for you where you didn't want to be wrong. You didn't want to be bad. You didn't want to be whatever that thing is. So your kid in the back seat.
Well, it's, first of all, for me with my dad and me being the first child and my sister 5 years younger, I mean, I was the experiment, and so, I mean, there was a lot of blame that went on. And I mean, both my mom and dad are passed on, so I can say this, so I'm not going to be insulting them. But, and for those of us that are around, I see that, Gloria is watching. She's roughly my age. Karen Dusenberry we're similar age. Catherine's a chunk younger than me.
Bronya, all of us. Yeah.
We come from the age where kids were spanked. Okay. And even last night on the show, Craig was talking about being from back east, the wooden spoon. That was real. That's not a joke. That was real. All right. So, when that stuff happens, at some point as an adult, I asked my mother, why did I get, beat so much? Was I that bad? And she literally said, no. I said, then why did he do that? And she looked at me and she said, well, because he was nervous. That's literally what my mom said. It's like,
but here's the thing. Here's an interesting thing. When you start out and you're talking about all this and you say, my childhood wasn't traumatic. I think when we were kids, it was just normal. It was just what happened.
That's
and
right.
So we think of it as like, I had a good childhood. It was fine. But when you're beaten as a child, it's not. That's trauma.
Right.
And so when we have that trauma as a child, it's like, I got to be a good boy. I got to do things right. I can't be doing things wrong. I got to do things right. And so when you can't recognize that you're doing something that doesn't work and I don't want to be wrong or bad or whatever, then you can't change it.
Right. And with my dad, and Audrey would ask me why I wouldn't say things at times where communication could have been more key between us, because I realized that my dad wasn't going to handle anything that was questioning authority. You get in trouble for speaking up. I mean, that was just part of it. I looked at all this stuff and I said, oh my goodness, if I said anything, I got in trouble.
Right.
And I got blamed for a lot. There was a circumstance that happened with my sister that my dad, in terms of circumstance and evidence, thought I did something or sort of broke something minor, and it was my sister. And I got in trouble.
I had that all the time.
Right. So look, at this point in the way I feel, I just feel completely different about it. I can relate the story to you and all this stuff that happened, but I don't have an emotional charge around it. It just isn't. It's just different.
Yeah. And I can see that. So then for me, instead of just, here we go again, and I have to forgive this and I have to let it go, now I'm able to let it go because I see that it's been changed. I see that belief has now moved into something else, and it's no longer this unconscious. He did the process of it. He understands it, gained his wisdom, and it's a whole new story. It's a reset, and it's truly a reset. It's not just here we go again, playing the pattern over and over again. So I wanted to share this all with you and have you understand, Nick and I, we're not any different from anybody. We just know what we know, and we are willing to do those things that change the unconscious beliefs that we have. Those things where little Audie and little Nikki in the back seat turn into whatever they've got going on. So we've never done this before. We've never talked about this. And I also wanted everybody to understand I have my stuff just like everybody else does. And that's why I put those tools together. That's why I put the book together. That's why the timeline is so important, and understanding how to really check what's going on with you. So I just want to say thank you all for being here. I see all your names, and I want to say thank you all so much for your support and for for being there for both of us, because many of you watch Mainstream Metaphysics as well. And we have literally one more moment before we're done. Anything else you want to add to this?
Well, by the way, if you didn't see last night's show, Mainstream Metaphysics,
Watch it.
Watch it. It's almost 2 hours. It is the Ed Sullivan of metaphysical talk shows. I'm telling you, it is a variety show that is just so good. And it's about the guests. It's not about me. It's about the people that showed up for the 5-year anniversary show.
Very interesting people.
Oh yeah, and I'm very grateful that a couple of those people that have really busy schedules took their time to show up for me.
Yeah,
that is huge.
Yeah.
I don't have a show next Tuesday because I'm taking the week off, but we'll be back with more. And by the way, and as Audrey is telling the story, Audrey, thank you for pointing all this stuff out, because that was the inspiration to go and like, okay, I know what I need to do here.
Yeah.
To take care of this. So,
but that's a good mirror.
Yes, a six-way mirror in a dressing room. Look at all sides of me, Yeah.
So you guys go out there and own your constructive communication.
Right.
If you find yourself going into that people pleasing and making it okay for another person, it's not really making it okay for anybody. When you're holding your word, there is power in it. And when you do it from a place of kindness, compassion, consideration, not from judgment, you're just simply being like, hey, this is what's going on. And then you can change yourself. You can actually affect change for the other person. The client's texting me. So I will be back again next week. I'm not sure what that's going to look like at this point, because I might have a surprise for you. And in the meantime, you guys have a happy Halloween tomorrow. And love each other through this election process. Remember, if somebody's doing whatever you don't like, if they're voting for somebody that you don't like, they're just on another timeline.
Exactly.
It's not to judge them. It's not to make them wrong or bad. They just have different beliefs rolling. They just have different information from what you have. There's no reason to be hating,
Exactly.
That hurts you when you're hating another person. So be compassionate with them, whichever side it is. Everybody's just finding their way with this. So Be nice. And I will see you next week. So love you guys a lot. Have a great one, and good night.
Good night.